Hello, this is Greg Allison with Green Greg's Garden and Worm Farm, coming to you from the Redstone Arsenal, actually from a Cobra attack helicopter at the Aviation Directorate here. And I'm going to talk to you today about Turkey, Syria, and the Kurds. And the breaking news is there's a ceasefire, a 120-hour ceasefire that is intended to allow the Kurds to withdraw to a roughly 20-mile, 32-kilometer type buffer zone. Now this incidentally is exactly what the Turks were trying to negotiate for prior to their invasion. And the Kurds were saying, no, we're just going to give you 5 kilometers. And Turkey said that was unacceptable. And you can imagine from a military standpoint, 5 kilometers is nothing. That's easy to attack from. And Turkey felt, at least from their knothole, threatened by the Kurdish forces in Syria, our supposedly allies. Now there's a lot more to this than meets the eye. You need to understand that the blamestream blues media has led you awry. What you need to know is that the Kurds, first and foremost, the Kurds are a people that are divided between several nations. The Kurds are divided between Syria, Turkey, Iran, and Iraq. Their region is the corner of those nations. And really and truly, the Kurds should have had a nation of their own. We can think the way the British divided up the Ottoman Empire back at the end of World War I for the political organizations of a lot of the countries in the Mideast. The Kurds should have had their own country. There are people who have been picked on, attacked, and killed en masse, and have just had a generally rough time. They've been discriminated against and taken advantage of by all the country parties for which they live in. So you can understand that the Kurds would rightfully be upset a bit. Also, some of these other countries, from their standpoint, see the Kurds as terrorists and people that attack them. Now, the other thing to bear in mind is that the Kurds are not a unified front. Here's something you may not have known. The Kurds in, say, Iraq don't necessarily get along with the Kurds in Syria. And the reason for that is the alliances of the Kurds in Syria. In fact, the Kurds in Syria are known as previously known and principally were known as the YPG. And the YPG is the People's Protection Unit or something like that. And in their language, that's roughly the way it translates, but not according to our alphabet, right? So the YPG is highly allied and directly connected to an organization called the PPK. The PPK is basically the Kurdistan Workers' Party. And essentially it is a very socialist organization. Now whether you agree with those policies or not, the Iraqi Kurds want no part of it essentially, and they are actually classified by NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, for which the United States and Turkey are both members, as a terrorist organization. And it just so happens when the United States set about to overthrow Assad, they tried to fund moderate Arabs to do the job and found very few takers. And it turned out that the United States spent about $2 million per person trained to do that job. And it was a failure. And so they decided then to go to the Kurds, which was not their first choice. But so they made deals with these people who were previously considered by NATO, which we remember to be a terrorist organization. Right or wrong, that's what they were considered. And this is in part because of their attacks on Syria previously, and principally Turkey, a NATO member. Now Turkey has got a colored past themselves in dealing with the Kurds, the Armenians, and such. We can talk genocide, Holocaust, whatever you want to talk. Those people have got the extremely bad treatment from Turkey in the past. I, for one, do not agree with any nation where the nation wants to hold a people as part of their nation that do not want to be in their nation. And we see that happen all over the world. It's the tyranny of the majority, and almost anywhere where you got a majority that has a minority underneath them, they tend to try to maintain them and control them. That seems to be an unfortunate aspect of human nature. It's like, these are ours, it's our property. Well, really, people, your property. It seems like we've had a lot of disagreements over that in the past, but it still goes on, my friends. So I can understand the Kurds from that standpoint, but you got to understand they do have a checkered past. They were considered a terrorist unit, and we actually went in and talked to them about that, and they decided to get a makeover. They changed their name to the Syrian Democratic Party or something like that, Syrian Democratic Party. And because they had Democratic in their name now, all at once are good. Same organization, they just put Democratic in their name, and now they went from being terrorist to good. So just imagine that, and envision that. Back when I was in the Army, I was glad those were on our side and not the other side, by the way back when. So, sorry for the aside. The deal with the Syrians, of course, we were trying to take a side out. And we were willing to make a deal with the devil, I suppose, or they weren't the devil, they just had a different perspective. And like I said, they have been badly mistreated by Turkey. And Turkey sees them as being the attackers. So there's it's a feud type history. One side killed one side's aunt, killed one side's uncle. In American history of feuds, it's kind of like that. And it's one of like in Northern Ireland for a long time. It's a very sad situation, and we'd like to see this overcome. And the tactics today may not be good for resolving that. All that said, you've seen a lot of hype in the news media of late, just tons of hype about Turkey attacking and how bad that is. And no, it's not good. I'm not standing by it. But I've heard stuff, the Turkey's got 50 American nukes hostage. Really? Give me a break. The American forces still have control over those nukes. Turkey does not have them hostage. Do you think the United States is just going to let Turkey run in and grab them? No way. That's not going to happen, my friends. Now, we may take them out. Given our current situation with Russia, I can see why some people would want to have things over there because we are not on friendly terms with them. But why not? We should be. Fundamentally, there's not that much difference between us and the Russians today as opposed to us and the Soviet Empire. The Soviet Empire had a communistic system supposedly built on world domination. That's not who they are and where they're at today. The Russia of today arose because we were over there picking the bones of their former empire and taking great advantage of them, and so they just rose up. Putin rose to protect his own people mainly. He's a little nationalistic, and he's trying to establish as much of the old Soviet empire as he can, which goes back to that tyranny of the majority, and Putin's no angel by any measure. However, we've over-demonized him in some respects, or at least the Russian people. The Russian people, I've been there to Moscow, they're great people. People anywhere are good people. You're going to find good people in Kurdistan, you're going to find good people in Turkey, you're going to find good people in Syria. Anywhere you go, there's good people. It's typically, once I've said over and over again, it's the organizations that control things that cause the consternations that we, the people, have to deal with. All right, why is that, Greg? Why are we talking about all this? Where are you going? I'm talking about this principally because of potentials for escalation. A lot of people on both sides of the political aisle really, we're chomping at a bit, almost like we ought to go to war with Turkey. Excuse me, Turkey's got 640,000 members of their military, reserve, active, and whatever, all together. That's huge. They have the second largest military in NATO. Yes, NATO. They're in the same treaty alliance that we're in. We're going to attack somebody on our own treaty alliance, so we're going to take up for allies. This is a small organization that was marked by NATO as a terrorist organization over a member nation of NATO, an ally that's even bigger. I can't blame the administration for picking the choices they picked. And besides the way we established our original objective, we went into Syria and we took out ISIS. Could they get reestablished? I suppose so. Could something else arise? Of course. There's always a lot of potential for mischief and things to happen. But we should not be the policemen of the world. And the reason I'm bringing this up is those kind of actions put us at risk of being in conflict with bigger powers. For one, Turkey is a big enough power to be of great concern. You're not just going to walk in there and kick their doors in. No. Yeah, Greg, we got a 1 million-man army. Why are we worried about 640,000? Well, not a 1 million-man army. We have 1 million military, active and reserve combined, scattered all over the world. There's no way you could just pick everything up and go take on a country like that. So you have to consider these things, and you have to consider the alliances. Turkey is kind of flirting with both sides of the table. They're buying hardware from Russia. Syria is definitely in bed with Russia. Russians are there in Syria. So would we want to stand up with our 50-man force in northwest Syria as a blockade to Turkish forces? No, but Trump did the right thing. He put pressure on them, and Turkey and the Kurds did reach, or seems to have reached, a ceasefire. Hopefully it will stick based on this buffer zone. And let's hope that works. I really do. I would like to see these conflicts draw to a close. Some people think that they're destined to happen, and maybe they are. It has been pointed out that Erdogan has got dreams of reestablishing the Ottoman Empire, the caliphate, from his end. And there's also other alternate caliphate dreams, but you know, the Ottoman Empire was based in Turkey and ruled a good portion of the Middle East and a little bit of Europe back up until World War I, where they were broke up, as I mentioned earlier. And but hey, the United States was born when the Ottoman Empire was there, and they were there until World War I, and they weren't a great threat to us. They were a mighty good inconvenience, perhaps. They may have sponsored some of the piracy and things once upon a time way back. I don't know. You know, we had the Barbary pirates or whatever it was, where the Marines went in. So the case is that there are situations in the world that could lead us to surprises. I mean, who would have thought the assassination of the Archduke Ferdinand would have led to World War I, which indirectly led to World War II and the Cold War we're in today. Still, even after the Cold War ended, we seem and still have the same posture and stance against Russia, which, you know, that really only makes sense from the standpoint of the money funders, the banksters. They're the ones that are at odds. It's the economic system that's at odds with the Russians. It's not a matter of they're on a different economic system. They're not promoting communism anymore. It's just they have competing goals for resources with our international banksters. And, you know, is that worthy of having all the nukes pointed at each other in World War III? I think we need to have some conversations with these people and decide, oh, we can't talk to Putin because Putin's bad and Putin affected the election. Well, that's all hyped up nonsense in the first place. Never happened. And whether you think it did or didn't, is that worth blowing the whole world up? Of course not. That's idiocy. Now, all that said, and talking about NATO, if you don't agree with Turkey and if you think they're out of bounds, should Turkey get out of NATO? Here's a better question. Should we get out of NATO? What are we doing in NATO? Or we're over there to defend Europe? Well, Europe's got a huge economy now, and Europe's also trading with the countries that we might be trying to defend them against. And so this should be up to Europe as to whether or not they're defended and how they're defended. So let Europe put on their big boy pants and defend themselves. Let's get out of NATO. Why are we the world's policemen? I'm not in favor of that. So it's something we need to think about and talk about, get the conversation started, and that's something we need to push for. I think we need to get out of NATO. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have defense. I believe in defense. I'm standing here on a military base next to an attack helicopter. Why? I do believe that you need strength to keep other people from overrunning you. But I like to see the day that we don't need these things, but we're a long way from that due to human nature and the aspects and politics of the world. So that said, I think we do need to rethink our alliances. I don't think we need to be, probably caught like we were in World War II, but there's probably other ways to avoid that. And we need to be smart. We need to quit blowing so much money defending countries that don't even seem to care, who economically exploit the fact that we provide their defenses for them. A lot of people point to the socialist nations of Europe and talk about how good they're doing. Well, they're doing so because in essence we're still subsidizing their defense. Well, they pay. Well, they don't pay that much. So we're paying. So why are we paying to defend rich economies in Europe? Why are you paying? It's coming out of your pockets, my friends. It's coming out of our national debt. Why aren't we looking after America? Why aren't we looking after ourselves? Okay. All that said, the prospects for wars leads to prospects for terrorist groups in the United States to take strikes. It leads to bigger conflagrations possibly, and perhaps the loss of our power grid to an EMP. These are things we need to stay out. The crazy thing is there's so many hot spots in the world today. The Mideast, gosh knows, the Mideast is quite a powder keg. And we've got China with the South China Sea, with Taiwan, with Hong Kong. I'll do a video on China real soon. There's so many things going on, so many things to consider, so many hot spots that would be good if we could just cool them off. I'll talk more about that in the future, but the key thing is you need to know that this world could go awry really fast. Given that, you need to be aware that you need to consider prepping for yourselves. So to get more information about how to prep, my videos, please subscribe to my channel if you haven't. Bang the update notification bell and check my ads below. I have links to my Patriot Supply. I'm really expecting food prices to go up, and if there's a major conflagration, you can get great deals on a year's of food for like $6 and some odd cents a day, or a couple of bucks and maybe 14 cents a meal. That's incredible on food that stores for 25 years. Go to True Leaf Market. You can get seeds, heirloom seeds, to grow your own garden. You can grow indoors with microgreens or outdoors with regular heirloom seeds, and so that you don't need fertilizer. Check out my link to greenregs.com, www.greenregs.com, and you can buy worms and make it the best fertilizer you can ever imagine, just from your kitchen waste and yard clippings and stuff like that. So be part of the solution, not part of the problem, and and push for things that make sense, and don't listen to the idiotic media. The media, anything they tell you, believe the opposite. I don't care who it is, even Fox News. They're all getting off so left field. I don't believe a word any of them say anymore. You need to find alternate sources, and you got to search and peck around. And I'll try to be a source, because I do scan many different sources for the information that I pick up and try to put together and to see what's really going on in this world. This world is a pickle. It's got a lot of potential problems, threats, and I do believe they're solvable. And I believe they're solvable by people. I believe if people coming together can work these things and push for the right answers. I don't believe the nations and the parties and all these organizations are going to do anything other than serve the interests of those organizations, and that is not your interest. That is not the interest of peace. That's not the interest of the people of this world. So take charge. Do it yourself. Don't be part of the problem. Be part of the solution. And I must say, we got a little hope here. Things are looking on the up and up with the ceasefire. Hope it sticks, and thank you for watching.